see you, internationals. Can we clap especially also for the video and also for the podcast? Yeah, because we do not know who is watching the podcast. Maybe Donald Trump, or Hillary Clinton, I do not know. Because we spread this podcast all over the world, yeah? And people can see that. And today's message is the new series called Good Life, The Good Life. Maybe you have your own experiences with church. I really like to go to church. I was a churchgoer. I grew up in a farm, and in Sunday it was no work, and I could go to church. But when I grew up, then I saw that the churchgoers, and especially also pastors and the leaders, they said a lot to me, "Thou shalt not." For example, I was maybe 18 or 19, and then I brought also people with me, and sometimes also girls with me, and two ladies were from Norway, and these Norwegian girls, they kissed like the French. So 3 times when we saw each other, we hugged each other, and the leader saw that, and then they said to me, "Dan, thou shalt not." It was like, oh, okay, I made a mistake. I'm in the church, and I saw like a list. Thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. No beer, no beer, no beer, no alcohol at all. And there was another list. Thou shalt. You have to do that, you have to tithing, you have to help maybe. But it was not the church like we have that we could contribute something, because the pastor did everything. He did the introduction, the MC. He was at the piano. He was doing. He gave all the information. So it was a one-man show. Like we in ICF, we have a lot of volunteers, and but that was my church experience. Maybe you have the same experiences, and you have also like a list: thou shalt and thou shalt not. Today we want to speak about the 10 Commandments, and the first of all is no other God. No other God. There are some rules who are really very helpful. For example, when you are in the traffic. I was once in the Caribbean island, and it looked like, for me, because I was driving the car, they do not have any rules. Have you ever been in a country where you thought, okay, they do not have rules in the traffic? Have you ever been there? Yeah. It's a little bit scary, right? You are driving and you do not know who is going to kill you. Sometimes rules are really very helpful. Maybe you have rules at home. Someone has to cook. At my house, in farm, it was normal that my mother cooked all the time. So actually, in my family, I'm also the one who is cooking. And maybe you have some rules who are really very helpful. And also God gave the Israelites some rules, because the Israelites were in Egypt. Joseph's family moved to Egypt with 70 people, and they lived there for 430 years, and they flourished very well. So the Israelites, or the family of Joseph, became a big crowd. There were 1.6 million people. And we read that Pharaoh put them under slavery. They were slaves, so the young people, they had only one choice. They could not travel around and discover the world. They only had the one chance, being a slave. And after 430 years, God decided to give them freedom. And they gave them the leader, Moses. And then he gave them the commandments. After 3 months, Moses was on the Sinai, and the commandments were very helpful. So we read it later in a verse that the commandments I give you today must be in your hearts. So that is the goal, the termination. So They have to be in your hearts. Make sure your children learn them. Talk about them when you are at home. Talk about them when you walk along the road. Speak about them when you go to bed. And speak about them when you get up. So the Jewish way of learning was speak about that all the time. And this was the Torah. And the Torah is the commandments is translated from the Hebrew word Torah, means speak wise words. Speak wise word that you have a good life. Maybe you have never heard about a good life in your life. Good and helpful principles. And here is about that we can learn about the Jewish concept. The Jewish concept means learn the whole time, 24/7, a day or a year. There were 2 tablets of stone. The 1 tablet was about the first 4 commandments, spoke about the relationship between God and man. And the other 6 commandments spoke about the relationship between people. And today I want to speak about the relationship between God and you. We read in Exodus 20, verse 3, do not put any other God in place of me. The Hebrew original text means you do not need any other God anymore because you have already me. God is enough. You do not have other gods. When I observe my life, when I watch my life on a higher level, then I see I always create gods. Because sometimes I'm thinking, is God really good, God? Is He really good with me or not? And that's why God sent all these 10 plagues to the Egyptian. Because He wanted to attack their gods. For example, when water became blood, so the god, the Nile was a gift of the sun god. And when the Nile became or turned into blood, it was an attacking against the god of the sun. Then he gave them a plague of the frogs. The frogs were highly respected. So when an Egyptian died, then he put a frog very well prepared into his tomb, because he thought that means flourishing in the other life. Then was these 3 days of darkness. It was like, wow, the living God from the Israelites is over the sun god. Or, for example, when they killed the firstborn represented the entire generation. It was like God, the living God, attacked the whole nation. But He wanted to show them there is a living God. Besides all these other gods from Egypt, there is a living God. And maybe you already have made a lot of experiences in your life. You saw miracles from God. And even though you saw it, you didn't believe it. Egypt was determined to have a great awakening after these 10 plagues. That they saw, that they recognized there is a God. There must be a God. But instead of that, nothing happened. How many times had God spoken to you? But you say, I'm not sure if this God is really lively. That brings me to the first point. Enjoy your new freedom to the full. Because when God introduced Himself, He said, I am the Lord your God. I brought you out of Egypt. That is the land where you were slaves. It was 3 months after that. It was the lands where you were slaves. You know, do you remember? Only 3 months after that, He gave them freedom. They maybe already forgot what God has done for them. How many times have you forgotten what God did in your life? And it is not the first burning love in you anymore because you have forgotten. This morning a young girl came, or a young lady, not girl, but a young lady came and she cried for 7 minutes. And then she said, I have to turn back to my God. I forgot that God has doing such amazing things in my life. You know, in 2 Peter we read, they may have escaped the sin of the world. They may have come to know our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But what if they are once again caught up in sin? And what if it has become their master? Then they are worse of the end than they were at the beginning. What if they had not known the way of godliness? That would have been better than to have known it and then to have turned their backs on it. The way of godliness is the sacred command that was passed on to them. That means when you once were in freedom and then you came back into slavery. You can sit in the prison and you can feel free because you have Jesus. But you can be in freedom and you choose the slavery. You choose to sin instead of having freedom. You know, when you choose to sin, then I do not condemn you, and Jesus either condemns you. But when you choose the sin, then you choose to suffer. The way to sin is always the way to suffer. But God has something else in store for you. Freedom! Do you believe that? Yeah. Because when we go back to the story, they complained, the Jewish people or the Israelites complained, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt. It didn't cost us anything. We also remember the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost all interest in eating. Okay. We never see anything but this manna. And these quails, do you know these quails? Quails were like a gourmet dinner. But they forgot it. That God gave the best to them in the desert. But they remembered to all the other things. But they forgot that they were slaves. They forgot they were beaten by the very destroying power of the Pharaoh. They forgot it. Then they tempted Aaron to do something, and Aaron was the guy who did it. He had a lot of joy. When Aaron saw it, he built an altar in front of the calf. The calf was the god, the horned dove. It was the god of the Nile. So they worshipped the god of the Nile instead of God. And then we read, he said, tomorrow will be a feast day in the Lord's honor. So the next day, the people got up early. They sacrificed burnt offerings and brought friendships offerings. They sat down and eat and drink. Then they got up to dance wildly in front of their God. And there is a Hebrew word for dance wildly. They had orgies, sexual orgies, in front of this God of Nile. Because they forgot God. You know, that's always the way you sin. First you forget God. And then you start a new lifestyle without God. The more you forgot God, the more your lifestyle will be changed. You know, when I remember, or when I look into my life, I have to be honest, I'm also tempted. I always tempted to live the right way and to go onto a way who is not good at all. For example, I have also my gods. My house gives me security. Do I think? But it's not true at all. Or having a luxury vacation means I am fulfilled, the God of fulfillment. That's not true. You can be at the best place of over the world, and you have not freedom in your heart. And you have not a fulfillment. It does not depend where you live, how much do you invest in your vocation. It has nothing to do with that. The fulfillment comes from the inward out. You believe that? And you say yes to that? We are really very creative as human beings to create our own gods. And God says, there is no other God. I am your God, and I want to fulfill you. I want to give you the very best life. And we think we are more clever and more smart. We are worshiping the God of education, and we have a lot of masters and all these degrees. And we think, whoa, I worship that. That gives me power. Instead of believing that as soon as you start to speak about Jesus, you have more power than every educated man in this world. Do you believe that? So that's the first point. And the second is, make God the boss over your time. Make God the boss over your time. Sometimes maybe you have heard this sentence, I do not have time. Think about that. This sentence is not true at all. So when someone says, I do not have time, means it's not on my priority list to serve you. It's not on my priority list to serve the church or to serve God's will or whatever. I do not have time. Everyone has 24 hours a day. You do not have time means when God takes you the time, then you don't have the time anymore. Because it's written in John 9, Jesus said, while it is still day, we must do the work of the one who sent me. Night is coming, then no one can work. Night means you don't have time anymore. Actually, you do have time to think about your life. Actually, you do have time and occasion to change your life. You can change your life right now if you want. So that's why I want to encourage you to make your time available for the Lord. Last Tuesday, I was praying in the morning, and then God said, do something extraordinary today. Go and share flyers in the park. Maybe you can post it, and some will come with you. Then I said, okay, I do that. Because I did that when I was starting every week, and now I restarted doing that. And then I was in the park for 90 minutes. And you can't believe, but I had more than 10 really good discussions in this time. I thought the people would deny a flyer, getting a flyer. And they got a flyer and they talked with me. Why did you do that? Why are you here? And one was a Muslim, and he said, wow, I'm really impressed that you are doing that. Another couple said, Jesus is really cool for us, but the church isn't cool at all. They were a Catholic. And then I said, okay, we have the same God, but we do have another style to worship Him. Maybe you can come. And they said, whoa, are we invited? And food is for free? It was so interesting. Yes. We read from Jesus in Mark 1:35. It was very early in the morning and still dark. Jesus got up and left the house. So we are going to bed when it's still dark, right? Or when it's dark. But Jesus got up when it was still dark. He went to a place where he could be alone. There he prayed. You know, the more time you have for your God, or the time that you invest, shows who you are worshiping. Show me your diary. Show me your calendar. And I can show you. I can show you and demonstrate you what God you have. Now the third point, make God the boss of your relationship. Of your relationships. Because it's written in Proverbs 18, even a man who has many companions can be destroyed, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. It's really very, funny. People who are following you or people to whom you follow shows if you are growing as a personality or not. The friends I choose is very important. I had a time in my life where I stuck in alcohol and addictions because I want to say, I always thought that I can convince them from my God, but they were stronger than me. And they convinced me about their drugs, and I did a lot of, I compromised in my life, but it was not good at all. Make God the boss of your relationships. Are you sure that the partner you have is the right? Not when you are married, but before you're married. Are you sure to whom you spend time with are the right people or not? Because it's all about relationship. I really miss my wife. That's why I brought the picture of her. She's actually at a weekend with the ladies' conference team. But I wanted to show that. Not because it's a cool picture. I really miss her. Excuse me. No, because all the commandments are summarized in the verse what Jesus said. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. So also with your emotions. Love him with your mind. So you do not pray always the same prayers. You are very creative in praying to him. This is the first and most important commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So I love myself. I'm a good guy. But I love also Karen. But first of all, I love God. Do you want to make your marriage more attractive? Then make your relationship to God more stronger. Invest more time. Say, God, I'm so excited about you. Because this is the key. Do you want to make your atmosphere at the office more attractive? Spend more time with God. We are so much tempted to waste our time. Waste our time on Facebook because we pretend to be somewhere, someone. We pretend to show a life who is exciting. But this is not the reality. The reality comes from the relationship to God. And the power, the whole power, the energy, all what you need. And my last point is, make God the boss over your needs. God gave them manna in the desert and meat, the best meat, gourmet. God can provide people, the Israelites, 1.6 million people, and he can provide your lifestyle, your life. He can provide you. He knows your needs. You know, and if you have the need of recognition, you can tell that to God. If you have the need of money, then you can tell that to God. If you have a need of being successful, then you can tell that to God. God understands you. God is like a father. He is not a dictator like Pharaoh. What we read in Deuteronomy, this verse about your father tells you the commandments when you get up and when you go to bed, the whole time. Your father is loving you. You know, that's the chair of my daughter, the first chair that I give it to her. And I never forget when she is sitting on the chair and she has very bright eyes. And then she tells me what she wants to Christmas. Or she tells me what she wants for school or for her leisure activities. And it's a moment like this that we sit in front of God and He knows exactly what we need. Because we read in Proverbs 3:6, in all your ways remember Him. Then He will make your paths smooth and straight. He gives you success. But in all your ways remember Him. Do not remember a better life strategy or something else. To remember Him, that He can fulfill your deepest needs. Or in Psalm 37 we read, find your delight in the Lord. Then He will do what? He will give you everything your heart really wants. We had a prayer meeting on Wednesday night. The prophet from Ghana was also there. And then she looked to a single woman and he said that your prayer will be fulfilled very soon. And then he said that he saw a man holding a Bible in his hands. And I knew that this girl is dating with a pastor. And that was really cool. Because it is according to our prayers. God fulfills the prayers of our hearts. Well, we have to be like this small child. Yeah? God, can you give it to me? Father in heaven. Maybe you are sitting here and you do not know God. It's the first time that you know about or heard about this God. I invite you to a personal relationship with Jesus. Because this God not only freed the Israelites from the slavery in Egypt, He also frees you from your slavery. When you are under sin, when you know exactly, I chose the way and I suffered so much because I chose the way of sin. That's why I invite you today to a prosperous life with Jesus. You have a life-giving God and He can give it right now to you. So if you want to surrender your time, then do that today. And maybe you have to surrender your life the first time, then do that also. Maybe you have to make God your boss over your relationships, then do that. And pray to God that He helps you to live a wisely life. Pray that. Ask God. And maybe you have a lot of needs and you have never pronounced it in front of God. Then please do it. Maybe the first time today. And come like a child in the presence of God. He likes that. Amen.